friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the show. Time to do another Ask Wrestlejuice. You guys got a lot of good questions, so we're going to dive into them. Before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, a little subscribe button, and if you don't like the video, you can take it away. First up, Black Blade 2000. After WWE allowed profanity, are we heading back to the TV-14 direction in the next 5 years? No, because I don't think USA would like that. That being said, it seems obvious that there's a push to edge things up a little bit. They're letting people say shit, which seems to be a thing now. However, they're not going to want to let go of that family audience. So I feel like they are just understanding that you're allowed to get away with a little bit edgier stuff in your popular entertainment. If they really want that 18 to 49 demo, they're going to have to do a lot more than just allowing the word shit. You're going to need storylines that don't insult the intelligence of your viewer. It's funny, Larson and I are having discussions the other day on Going In Raw. We're talking about NXT UK, which is one of my favorite things right now because it's only an hour a week. They don't have pay-per-views. They're starting to bring back fans, and it's just simple. The wrestling's really good. The characters are all really solid, and there isn't any of that stuff that WWE does, like Finn breaking the turnbuckle, where it's like, what? Why would you do that? It's just logical booking with characters that all act like actual human beings. Main roster WWE often has a problem. They don't understand how to make people act like normal human beings. They do stuff that doesn't make sense, like constant rematches and constant championship contender matches. Turnbuckles breaking out of nowhere just leaves you scratching your head. And I don't get it. I don't know why they do that stuff. They overthink this stuff. Stories with relatable characters and really good wrestling. It's a simple formula. It doesn't have to be weird. And in fact, under your own umbrella in NXT UK, you do that. So I feel like the superficial stuff, like edging up your product with profanity, is like the least of their concerns. They could have a killer wrestling product on the main roster. Monday Night Raw, all 3 hours, could be awesome every single week if they just focused on more relatable stories and good wrestling matches. So I don't think we're going to head back to the TV-14 direction because they still need to satisfy their shareholders, their advertisers, and the families that buy all that merch for their kids. But they also want to appeal to that 18 to 49 demo. So you probably will see a bit more profanity, but I don't think we're going to get back, nor should they go back to the era of bra and panties matches, salacious storylines like that, just to grab that college crowd. I don't think they're going to do that. The Pepsi Dude asks, would you open a Cameo page? I don't know a single soul who would want to pay $15 for me to say, hey, Kevin, happy birthday. Good job. So probably not. If somebody wants me to do a happy birthday message, just let me know and I'll do it. I don't really care. Adam Moyer, why is Ricochet being underutilized? I kind of feel like it's because he doesn't have a character. And as much as he is, here's the thing about Ricochet. Here's where Ricochet would work. If he joined the Hurt Business, and the Hurt Business and Shelton and Cedric were not booked to be clowns, if they were booked strong like they used to be. Ricochet needs to be a bad guy. He needs to be in a faction. He needs to be that X factor in a faction. He needs to be not the lead guy in a faction, but the guy that everybody's like, oh man, wait, Ricochet's going to do something. He needs to go back to being like, remember Buddy Murphy's old gimmick, the best kept secret in wrestling? He needs to go back to being that to build buzz for himself. He needs an edge. Speaking of edge, he needs an edge. And I keep on going back. People kept on sharing that clip on Twitter of back when Drew was a bad guy, and I think he was Baron Corbin's henchman, and Ricochet was in there, and he had the mic, and he says,
but I didn't come here to talk.
And Drew McIntyre says,
then shut up.
And he just looked at him with cry face. Ricochet's never been, this is God's honest truth, he's never been terribly good on the mic. He's never been that compelling a character. In WWE, you have to have a character if you're going to get anywhere. That's just the God's honest truth. So that's going to be why. He cannot be a good guy anymore. He's got to be a bad guy. And until they turn him, it's not going to work. And they need to turn him and put him with people who can, surround him with personality, because that just doesn't shine through. So that's going to be the thing about Ricochet. Let's see here. Fact Channel asks, will Top Dollar ever draw a dime? Not only will he draw a dime, he'll draw a lot more than that. I think WWE is actually really high on Top Dollar. I think the main reason they drafted Hit Row to main roster is because of him. He's large. He's got tons of charisma. He's already a great talker, and he doesn't have to do that much in the ring to be effective. He's a big man, and I think they love that, and I think people are going to love him, and I love what he's doing, calling out the Young Bucks for their shoe game. Let's see here. Tim Morris asked, do you ever feel like taking a break from wrestling/podcasting? Just a week or two to recuperate? Nah, I got enough rest. What I do is not terribly... I mean, it's always fun, and I always enjoy doing it. So, I don't feel like I need a rest. Whenever I take time to rest, I'm just antsy because I really actually want to be doing this kind of stuff. At some point today, I'm supposed to film a video talking about putting Karrion Kross into WWE 2K and seeing how well he does. I'm anxious to do that because it sounds like fun. So, I don't really need a break. I took a break 2 years ago when I went to Europe. Let's see here. This is a great question from Doug Jackson. Considering the ratings slide WWE has been on for years and the developments of NXT 2.0, and he says, yes, I want you to rip it to shreds. This week's was actually pretty good. But I actually am planning on doing a video taking a look at the first month of NXT 2.0 and where I see it going in the future. Getting back to Doug's question, says, one of the key demos WWE always fails is the 18 to 49 demo. Well, it doesn't really fail the 18 to 49 demo. It actually does pretty well. The two main roster shows do pretty well. They actually rank pretty high. NXT does terribly there. He says that demo typically skews closer to liberal ideology rather than the conservative older crowd, 50 plus. Do you think segments like Retribution, which was the answer to Black Lives Matter / Antifa rallies of 2020, and Joe Gacy, the NXT 2.0 safe space guy, are possible factors beyond them just being shit in a falling 18 to 49 demographic? WWE does like to run angles that are political in nature at times, and that's not counting when Trump fought McMahon. Love to know your thoughts. It's not a... I honestly think it's a lot more simple than that. I think Retribution could have been that subtle shot at Antifa that maybe Vince and crew were going for. They see what's going on. They read a headline and they're like, oh, we should do this on our show. It's all in the execution. Retribution, the idea of just being a bunch of chaos bringers, is not a terrible one. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Nexus. We've seen it even with DX in a comical matter. But a bunch of dudes, hooded figures coming in. They didn't have Retribution win much at all. They gave them goofy-ass names, which detracted from what they were doing. They debuted the group as a bunch of people who looked like they were 5 feet to 6 feet tall when the eventual group was completely different people. The entire thing from beginning to end was botched. And that sort of is the point. I don't believe that any of the political ideology stuff that may be baked into some of their stuff is the problem. I think it's the execution. I think Joe Gacy is too early to really make a judgment on. They might be doing something interesting there. I'm willing to hold out hope on that one. They got some headlines for all the jargon he was talking week one, and I get that. And it is kind of groan worthy, and they probably could have gone a bit more of a different route out the gate. But I'm interested to see what they're going to do with Joe Gacy. But I understand the general point. I kind of feel like, though, especially lately, they've had a pretty decent track record when it comes to diversity in their championship ranks. I don't think that's the problem. I don't. I think it boils down to logical storylines, good wrestling, people who act like actual relatable human beings. That's what it boils down to. They overthink things on main roster. They don't plan ahead. That's the main issue with their core product. And it's been that way for a very, very, very long time. Some would argue when Vince Russo left and Vince had basically realized that one head writer wasn't going to cut it. And so he started hiring a mass of writers. Might have been the problem. Some would argue it might be Vince's age. He's simply out of touch now. It could be any of those things. I think this isn't a terrible idea right here from Doug Jackson. I just think that it's simpler than that. I don't think the political ideology has much to do about anything. In fact, they've basically banned Donald Trump from appearing on TV in any way, shape, or form because they realized that he wasn't the most popular guy. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on that. But that's a great question. Let's see here. FSI, do you think AEW is failing to bring in new eyeballs? If so, and how? No, I don't believe that at all. I think it's quite the opposite. I think that, people originally with Dynamite after the first couple of weeks 2 years ago was like, oh, well, it's not even breaking 1 million. It's not even breaking. And now it's breaking 1 million every week. Now that's the expectation. It has been growing over the long haul. So no, I think they are. And just anecdotally speaking, there are so many people. I mean, me and Larson had a conversation with Dan Nerdcubed a couple weeks ago where he was like, I just can't watch WWE anymore, but I've come back because of AEW. Anecdotally speaking, a lot of people that I've talked to have come back to wrestling because of AEW. Or if they say, hey, do you still watch wrestling? Nah, but I've been watching AEW. That's just anecdotally. I think it plays out in the numbers. I think they're doing a fine job bringing in new eyeballs. Deep Voice Dude says, compared to the Monday Night Wars, do you feel like there is less overlap between WWE and AEW fans? And he gives a good example. He says, if Kenny Omega debuted at the Royal Rumble, he says at least half the stadium would have no clue who he was. Whereas if Goldberg showed up in WWE in 1998, most of the arena who would know who he is. This is a really good point, and I think this is true. I think if Goldberg showed up in 1998 in WWE, everybody in the stadium would know who he is. Kenny Omega these days, I think it'd probably be more than half. But given that so many people that show up to these arenas are like families, and like I said, people who might not follow WWE on Twitter, et cetera, there might be a lot of people out there who wouldn't know who Kenny Omega is if he showed up today. Certainly not as many as if it was Goldberg. So yeah, I feel like that's true. I think that the fact that wrestling is it's not nearly as mainstream as it was in 98 means that much fewer people know about it in general, means that less people would probably know who Kenny Omega is now compared to Goldberg. That comparison is totally apt. That being said, if he showed up in WWE, I think a lot of people in the crowd, if it was like an anticipation thing, they would be chanting Omega, Omega. And maybe everybody would start catching on. You start talking to each other. But yeah, I just think it's a matter of the general popularity of wrestling is down these days since 1998. Adam Rogers, have you been following the rise of GCW and the recent announcement of an LA offshoot? LA Fights. I'm going to try to go to that first show in November. I don't know if we'll be able to make it, though. Jay, who would you want to see Brian face from New Japan first? My answer would have been Minoru Suzuki. That's happening tonight. Azar Musa asks, what do companies like Ring of Honor and MLW have to do to get some buzz? Oh, it's hard, man, but you got to sign some exciting names and get those gifts out there. That's how I learned about GCW, is in all the gifts that I saw, and then they'd bring in people. It's just bringing in exciting names for exciting matchups. I know MLW's been trying to do that, but man, it's hard. It is not easy with AEW out there, man. So I would say, yeah, just saturate, whenever some cool shit happens in your show, just saturate social media with it. Michael David, not sure if you've answered this before. Kill Switch Engage or In Living Color. He says, I understand why Punk chose to use Cult of Personality. It's that. I like the Kill Switch Engage song, but Cult of Personality is now basically synonymous with CM Punk. Christopher Garrix, do you worry that the luster of CM Punk will wear off and AEW will be in a honeymoon phase with signees, or will it be a perpetual motion of anticipation and excitement? I think that they're going to have to rely on good stories and good matches to get them through those lulls, because the signees are going to be fewer and far between. I think it's still going to happen with WWE contracts coming up. More people are going to be moving. But no, I think with Punk especially, they're going to need probably in a year or so to turn him heel. KZ, what wrestler would you like to see fight a bear? I just watched The Dark Side on Johnny K9. Him. I'd love to see him fight a bear. Finbar, would Jungle Boy be better off away from Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt? Yeah, somebody give that kid a microphone. Teach him how to do a promo because I still don't know anything about him. Michael Petrovsky, with WWE and AEW, the top two promotions in the U.S., where do promotions like NWA, Ring of Honor, MLW, and Impact land on the list? It goes WWE, AEW, Impact. I'd say Impact and GCW sort of, I'd say it's probably Impact then GCW, but they're close. They're a close third. They're probably tied for third. Then it would be Ring of Honor, MLW, and NWA. Radu asks, are you going to do Stone Cold reviews again anymore, or is that over? I'm going to keep on doing them, I think. I just need inspiration to strike, and I've been busy lately. Thaviru asks, who is the greatest Bullet Club member in your opinion? Either AJ, it's probably Kenny. AJ, Kenny, or Finn, one of the leaders. It's Bad Luck Valley. All right, friendos, that's going to do it for today. Be sure to keep an eye on that community tab for another QA thread, probably next week, because I'm going to use some of the ones that I did today. I'm filming 2 back-to-back. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, watch one of these other videos. We'll talk to you guys later.